Sahanam Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So, here the first verse was saying Yoma Pashyati Sarvatra Sarvam Chamai Pashyati. So the one who sees me in everything, and in everything the person sees me. Tasya Aham Na Pranashyami. For that person I never cease to be. And Sacha Mena Pranashyati. So that means that person never ceases for me also. So then he says, Sarva Bhuta Sthitam Yoma Bhajante Ekatvam Asthitaha Sarvatha Vartamanopi Sayogi Mayavartate. It's a beautiful verse which actually, for the first time, this bhaj, the word bhaj is used, and from the root bhaj, here it is used as a verb, bhajati, right? Now, the very common word that you all know, which comes from this root, is what? Bhakti. It comes from the root bhaj. So therefore, sorry?
The song also, Bhajare.
Yeah. So that means, yeah. Now, generally, when I ask you what is bhakti, so what comes to your mind is what?
Love.
Love. Wow, that's very beautiful. Generally, when you talk about bhakti, generally what the person that you think is a bhakta is the one who goes to the temple, is the one who does bhajans, the one who kind of, does some rituals. That you think, that person for you is what? A bhakta. And when the person is not doing all of these, so generally we think bhakti is an act.
Worship.
When I'm doing a specific act of worshipping, then I'm relating to Ishvara. That's our normal understanding. So here, the kind of bhakti that Lord Krishna is talking about is, so that means if you are not doing bhajans, and if you are not doing ritual, and if you are not in the temple, then what are you doing? You're not a bhakta. That's our normal understanding. What Lord Krishna is saying is, your whole life has to be converted into a bhakti. It's not action specific. Bhakti, by definition, means relating to Ishvara. Relating to Ishvara for you, if it is only when I am doing a specific activity, I am relating to Ishvara, then you can't whole day sit and meditate. You can't whole day sit and sing bhajans. You can't whole day sit and chant and do rituals or prayers. So that means a lot of your time is spent in not relating to Ishvara, if this is your definition of bhakti. Your whole definition of bhakti has to undergo a change. That this is one of the ways to express my relationship with Ishvara. When I am talking with you, then am I outside Ishvara? No. Because what makes me me and what makes you you is also Ishvara. The laws which govern our interaction are also Ishvara. The laws which govern our interaction, what does it mean? That there is a certain law of dharma which is in both our buddhi. I know very well how you, I don't, that I don't want you to treat me. And I also know very well how you don't want to be treated. When I honor that law, I am in touch with Ishvara. I am in touch with Ishvara in form of what? Law of dharma. That is also bhakti. Because if you define bhakti as not a specific act, but as relating to Ishvara, and if you don't lose sight of all-pervasive Ishvara, and in every activity of yours, you bring in the fact that even if you are confronted with the most difficult situation, are you outside the order of cause and effect, which gives you that situation? You are never outside Ishvara. When that shift takes place, then your life begins to flow. You have to enjoy the flow of your life. Because no matter what you are doing, you are relating to Ishvara.
And also no matter whether I'm aware of or by free will.
What?
It's the same, I mean, it's also no matter whether I'm aware of relating to Ishvara or not.
See, that's the thing, you have to convert. Now what we are talking about is, see, you by definition, you are never away from Ishvara. Because all that is here is Ishvara, right? But what keeps you away from Ishvara is your own ignorance.
Yeah.
So what we are trying to do here is remove the ignorance. The more and more you remove the ignorance, the facts which are already there, you begin to be aware of. The whole operation of Vedanta is whatever is the reality is already there. The reality of Atma is already there. Reality of Ishvara is already there. But we operate from ignorance, away, which makes us see ourselves as one little isolated being and the world as an external being. And in that vision, inherent in that vision are many subsequent problems. Our isolation, our anger, our frustrations, our anxiety. So what does Vedanta do? It doesn't produce things. It just makes you look at what is with a totally different light. So Vedanta, the only job Vedanta does is what? Actually remove your ignorance. So you can see what is, what already is.
Yeah, this is what I meant.
We are not creating realities. The realities are already what they are. What keeps us away from reality is our ignorance. This is why in the first class, what did we see? The problem is what? Ignorance. The teacher's job, this is why the name Guru comes from what? We think Guru is, some kind of some great, some other species with long beard and all. Guru means very simple. Gukaraha andakaraha vai rukarasta nivartakaha andakara nirodhetvat guruhu iti abhidhiyate. Don't worry. What is what is that? Okay. Gukara refers to andakara. Andakara means darkness. Darkness of what? Ignorance. And Rukara stands for what? Nivartakaha. Means somebody who is capable of removing that ignorance. So therefore, the Guru is the one who makes you see things. How? Not by creating realities, by what? What? By just removing your ignorance. Guru. one who removes your ignorance by the teaching. So therefore, we have we have so many festivals in India. And one of the most beautiful festivals is Guru Purnima. That Guru Purnima is a full moon day, which is the birthday of Vyasa, the one who wrote Mahabharata. And we celebrate that day as a day where we have to pay respect to our gurus. And there are so many gurus who helped you throughout your life to remove one specific ignorance. Your math teacher, your science teacher, all teachers contributed to removing ignorance. But all these ignorances that you removed, you became more and more cultured, you became more and more informed. But one ignorance remained intact. That was the nature of I. And as long as that ignorance remained intact, the life didn't seem to be fulfilled. So therefore, this guru does a very important job, which is the key. Helps you to remove that darkness, which then makes you embrace everything else. Without it, everything is devoid of meaning. There is a very nice movie. I'm going on a digress. I digress. I know that. But what I say, I think it's important. There is a very nice movie about Ramanuja. Ramanuja was a very famous mathematician, and
What is the title?
The Man Who Knew Infinity.
It's a good one.
It's a good one. And that movie was an interesting movie because there is this Ramanuja who is this Brahmana in Chennai, and he's doing all these mantras and all. And then he sees all these equations and all, and he's a genius. Then he gets called at Cambridge in England, and he starts just telling this professor of physics in Cambridge, that he sees all these amazing formulas, and the professor keeps asking him, but how are you arriving at all these formulas? So give me series of reasons as to how you are kind of, coming to these conclusions. So that means each one helps the other. The professor helps him to come up with a sophisticated methodology to say why he's saying what he's saying. And he teaches the professor that without this methodology, the Western way of learning is you use this reason, and then you come to that point. Without this, he already knows that point. So he also gives him an insight into, without going through this process, somebody can. So both of them have such an interesting interaction. And then the movie ends by, it's interesting, the professor asks him, he says, actually, how are you knowing all these things without actually working through it? And he says that Ishvara reveals it to me. And the man says, I really appreciate your intelligence, but I don't believe in Ishvara. I believe in reasoning. And the man, Ramanuja, replies back, and he says, if there was no Ishvara, this would become meaningless formulas. The whole magic for me is this intelligence which manifests, and I'm constantly in touch with it, and that reveals things to me. That relationship. He is a mathematician, but he is relating to Ishvara. And he thinks physics without that Ishvara, the magic of Ishvara, will just become some technical, mechanical formulas. So therefore, this is what... so therefore, when a physicist is looking into the magic of the universe, is that the physicist may say, I'm looking into the theory, but is actually, if you've removed your ignorance, is he or she away from Ishvara? He may not, that's why, what keeps him or her away, and he calls it research in physics, unrelated to Ishvara, because of what? His own ignorance of the all-pervading presence of Ishvara.
There's this quote from Einstein, and he said, like, I want to know God's thoughts, the rest are details.
Yeah, exactly. So that means, no matter what you are doing in this life, when you are expressing your art, that is also within Ishvara. Aesthetics. So this is why Swamiji used to say, I don't want my students to look like hippies. Why? Because there is this whole law of aesthetics. Aesthetics means, when you see a beautiful red rose, you feel pleased. When you see a bunch of garbage, it is also Ishvara, but the emotions and the differences in emotion are also Ishvara. This is the mistake we make. We think Ishvara means only everything is beautiful. These are the cliches we have to give up. Ishvara includes range of emotions, and also your ability to discern between something which is pleasing and something which is not pleasing. If you lose that capacity in the name of everything is Ishvara, that means you don't know what Ishvara is. Distinguishing, the ability to distinguish between a good smell and a foul smell, part of design of Ishvara. If you try to convince because everything is Ishvara, everything is the same, you don't know what you are talking about. Everything Ishvara doesn't mean everything is the same. And that you have to relate to everything exactly the same. Is this what Lord Krishna is telling Arjuna? Not at all. Every situation, every response calls for a different response, Ishvara. Every situation gives you a different kind of emotional response, Ishvara. Otherwise, you'll not be able to distinguish between, when somebody that is crossing the road and a car is running through, you'll say, oh, this is an act of Ishvara, let me walk out. That you feel disturbed is the one which makes you help that person. How are you going to decondition yourself? So therefore, Ishvara doesn't mean your responses are the same. This is a mistake. Ishvara means in everything there is a cause and effect. And the understanding of what is appropriate, what is inappropriate, what is pleasant, what is unpleasant is all given. There are laws of aesthetics, laws of certain which govern. Ask her how many things she has to know before she creates these beautiful paintings out of sand. How many things she needs to know. You try doing what she is doing. put sand on the glass, it looks like nothing. And she creates cities. She tells stories. So therefore, in those intricacies are Ishvara. And your ability to appreciate all of them and to see the play of Ishvara in everything and to respond to this world in that way will change your mindset. That is a bhakta. Bhakta is the one who is never away from Ishvara. Is constantly, when you're looking at the beautiful flowers in Germany, most of them I don't see in India. And when I look at them, it creates pleasure. And that is not outside Ishvara. If I think that by Ishvara I mean garbage and flower is exactly the same, we don't want to be that kind of a jnani who loses the capacity to distinguish between a beautiful flower and a garbage.
Like the Agora yogis, they do
Yeah,
something like
exactly. So that means what is important is enjoy all the aesthetics. When you don't have to keep away from anything, and when you begin to see everything as a manifestation of Ishvara, and within that manifestation of Ishvara, what? Each thing requires a different response. And your ability to identify what is the appropriate response in this given situation, again you are in touch with Ishvara. Because you are not operating only from your raga and dvesha. You are operating from what? The overall understanding of the overall situation and what needs to be done by you and do what needs to be done. That's exactly what Arjuna was doing. Passivity is not an answer. Thinking, oh, everything is one and therefore everything is Ishvara, so let me just, go and embrace my brother, is also not an answer. That situation required for his intervention, and a very specific intervention. And recognizing that and doing what needs to be done is the one which makes you relate to Ishvara. You never lose sight of Ishvara. Your whole vision is not from, let me, the little individual, protect my self-interest. And the whole world has to cater to me for my well-being. That is the vision of a jiva, a wanting, needy jiva. A child, an inner child who wants everything one's way, otherwise will throw tantrums. I want your attention, I want your attention. That is a child. So therefore, Bhakti has a different meaning in Bhagavad Gita. Bhakti doesn't mean an act. It means you're relating to Ishvara, and the more you understand the nature of Ishvara, the more you're able to relate to Ishvara. And your relating to Ishvara doesn't get confined to specific activities. Through the day, you keep the sight of Ishvara. And through the day, you have to perform many different functions. And you have to play many different roles. Sometimes a father, sometimes a husband, sometimes you for yourself, sometimes you're patient and you. In each of these roles, when I do what needs to be done, I am a bhakta. So that means, when will you not be a bhakta? When you go to office, you will still be a bhakta. When you relate to your family, you are a bhakta. When you relate to your kids, you are a bhakta. When you relate to yourself, you are a bhakta. Because what makes you bhakta? The only thing which makes you a bhakta is your relationship with the all-pervading presence of Ishvara. So this is what he says, if you begin to have a life like that, then what? Sarvatha vartamanopi. What? You can be anywhere in any corner of the world, and what? Sa yogi mai vartate. That yogi is in me, with me. Sarvatha vartamanopi. Tha is what? The prefix, the suffix, which gives you what? At every place, any place you go to, you are with me. So, this is what is the idea of Bhakti for Lord Krishna. Now, what he says is, the next verse, it is interesting. Here he says, Jnanam deham savijnanam idam vakshamya sheshadaha yatnatva neha bhuyodyata natavyam avashishyate. So this is a beautiful verse because here he says that if you try to, for example, there are a lot of people who teach Vedanta without Ishvara. In fact, our Swamiji himself was saying that many of, he did a course in America, and many of them came from, let's say, this traditional, maybe some religious beliefs which were not acceptable to them. So they broke free from those beliefs and they came to him. So now whenever Swamiji talked about Ishvara, it reminded them of their previous beliefs. So they said, Swamiji, why do you need to bring in this Ishvara? Why can't you just teach Vedanta, the whole world is mithya, and then that is, awareness is the truth. Why do we need Ishvara inside? It's very easy, and it's much easier because you skip this whole Ishvara part, which is invoking all this discomfort in us. And it is reminding us of all our past conditioning, which we have tried very hard to break free from. So let's skip that step. So, as Swamiji said, hey, Vedanta doesn't work according to what your needs are. Vedanta works according to what the realities are. So that means that you want not only the world to work as per your needs, you also want the knowledge and the truth to be according to your needs. And that's not how things are. So therefore, what is important here is that there is no Vedanta without Ishvara. Why? Because Ishvara is a reality. The intelligence which makes every form as a form, if you don't understand that presence of that intelligence, can you say that I am looking into the truth? So that means, he says this Vijnanam which I have given you will become what? Suvijnanam, a complete knowledge. So this is what he says, Yat Gnatva Bhuyaha Anyatram Gnatavyam Na Avashishyate. So that means now, once you know the presence of Ishvara, and one more thing, your relationship with Ishvara, then the understanding of Vedanta is complete. Till then, it is not complete. So therefore, whole of Vedanta is not only the teaching about you are aware, Satchitananda Atma. Yes, it does say that. But Vedanta also talks about a very, fundamentally it is talking about an equation. What is the equation? Chandogya Upanishad, Tat Tvam Asi. Some of you may have heard of it. Some of you may not have heard of it. It's okay. I'm going to explain. The equation is between I, right? Tvam. Tvam means what? You. And Tat. Tat is who? Ishvara. I am that. Shantos. I am that. That is the equation. What is this equation about? So, how can I overheard Ole after the class hearing, it seems bizarre. Look at this. It seems bizarre that I am equated to Ishvara. No, he didn't say that, but I am saying that, why? Because I know what? I am such a limited person. I am limited in my knowledge, I am limited in my power, I am limited in my abilities. This is called Alpajnaha Alpashaktiman. What is Alpajnaha Alpashaktiman? That I have, as an individual, limited knowledge and limited power. And then the other side of the equation is what? Sarvajnaha Sarvashaktiman. What is that? All knowledge and all power from which the entire universe comes. And entire universe means what? Time, space and every object. How are Upanishads talking about me being that Ishvara and getting away with it? It's incomparable, right? It seems if I tell you, okay, make sun, make moon. What is your ability to make the sun and make the moon? And Ishvara is the one from whom the entire universe has come. How is this equation possible? So therefore, here he says, now that you have understood the all-pervading presence of Ishvara in form of all knowledge and all power, now we are talking about now what exactly is the real relationship between you and Ishvara. Before I go into this equation, I want you to be generally aware of what is an equation. Because if you don't understand what generally an equation is, you will get confused with this knowledge. Generally, any equation is between two sides which appear to be what? Dissimilar, but they end up being one. That is called, in mathematics, that's called equation. What does it mean? 5 is equal to 5 is not an equation. Why is it not an equation? They are same. So 3 plus 2 is equal to 1000 minus 995 is an equation. Why? Why is it an equation? It's one. It's 1. Because it's 5. And that 5 is 1. So that means if you solve the left side of the equation, which is 3 plus 2, it comes to what? 5. If you solve the right side of the equation, which is 1000 minus 995, what does it come to? 5. Do you get it? So that means both are right.
I got it.
So that means both are right. They both lead to 5, so both lead to 1. So therefore, it's an equation. Now, imagine every equation has a right point of resolution. The point of resolution in this equation is what? 5. If you don't resolve the equation at the right place, what will happen is you'll make a big mess. Suppose I say, oh, 3 plus 2 is equal to 1000 minus 995. Wonderful. That means 3 is equal to 1000, plus is equal to minus, and 2 is equal to 995. If you try to solve that equation at a wrong place, what will happen? What will happen?
Mix up.
A big mix-up. Not a small mix-up. So that means when you're solving the equation, your buddhi has to be what? Very, very precise. Where is the equation? If you solve it at a wrong place, you will start believing, I am Ishvara. When your ability to even, as Swamiji used to say, get the mosquito out from your body is also a struggle. You're on a big trip. So therefore, you have to solve this equation at the right place. Then it makes sense. Otherwise, it is confusing. So therefore, let's look at how to solve this equation. Now we know that you, the individual, the first 6 chapters of the Gita, what did they tell you about your identity? Are you this individual? No. So when you solve this equation on the left hand side, which is you started with me being what? This body, mind, this senses. Then where did Vedanta bring you? Atma. What is Atma? Sat, Chit, Ananda, Atma. The awareness which is what? Truth of time and space. And which has no boundaries. There is no second thing other than that awareness. So that means now what you have done is solve the left side of the equation, and by the meaning of you, you have come from the individual to what? Atma. Sat Chit Ananda Atma. Now you have to solve the right side of the equation. You can't just leave it all hanging. What is the right side of the equation? What is the entity there? Tat. And what is that Tat? Sarvajnaha Sarvashaktiman Ishvara. All knowledge and all power. It is not identical as awareness. Please understand that. If you mix up the two, you have mixed up everything. The all knowledge and all power is the intelligence from which everything comes, which organizes everything in a way that what? There are increasing from particles to atoms, atoms to molecules, molecules to cells, cells to objects. This whole arrangement which brings about different objects in the universe. So that means this entity is all knowledge and all power. Now, in order to solve the equation, you need to, this is the starting point of the right hand side, you need to figure out what is the relationship between what? All knowledge and all power and what? Awareness. Do you understand that?
Awareness and Ishvara.
So now, what you need to, in order to ultimately solve the problem, the equation, you need to ask yourself one more question, and that is what? What is the relationship between all knowledge and all power and awareness? They're not the same. And what is the relationship?
Maya.
Satyam.
Satyamitra. Satyamitra.
So that means, yes. So that means, what is the relationship? The relationship is what? That all knowledge and all power, when you look into the truth of it, what is it?
Awareness.
Awareness. Awareness is the point of resolution of the equation. Two very seemingly different entities, Jiva and Ishvara. Both of them, when you look into their truth, they resolve in what? Awareness. How? Think about, let's look at it from two standpoints. First is, just as little intelligence requires awareness for its existence, right? All knowledge also requires what? What is the first thing that it requires? Awareness for it to be all-knowing. So that means the all knowledge itself then what? Depends upon what? Awareness. The all knowledge and all power itself depends upon awareness. So that means the two different entities, Jiva and Ishvara. And what is the point of resolution? Like in the case of the other equation, 5 is a point of resolution. In this case, what is the point of resolution?
Awareness.
Sat Chit Ananda. So this is why Lord Krishna says, you and me are looking very different, but essentially one. Different upadhis. One is one of the manifestation of the creation. The other one is what? The whole cause of the creation. Look very different. Powers are very different. Knowledge is very different. But there is a point of resolution. And that point of resolution is Satchitananda Atma. The awareness which is truth of time and space, which is limitless. Now, let's look at the second way, because I know it is difficult. It's not easy to follow sometimes. So my job is to show you the other way. Nice smiling. Let me show you the other way, and let's look at when we started with this pot and we began to look into the reality of the pot. What we started with pot, then clay, then sand, then molecules, then atoms, and then particles, and then we moved to concept. Now what we have done is, this concept which was just like ambiguous, we have replaced it with Ishvara. Which is what? From which these tiniest of the particles come. Then those particles get organized as atoms. There is also the work of intelligence. Then the atoms organize to create molecules. Molecules organize to create cells. Cells organize to create different forms. So that means this concept got replaced by what? Ishvara. There is an intelligence which organizes the universe in a way that every level of organization, there is what? Appearance of a different form. Forms within forms, within forms, within forms, within forms. So that means something which was a little bit hanging in, which is a concept, got replaced with what? All knowledge and all power. Then, when we did that, the concept is now replaced by all knowledge and all power. Then the truth of that concept was what? Awareness. So now we have replaced the concept with what? All knowledge and all power.
Now we have to figure out what awareness is. I mean, in the next step, let's say.
So that means that the truth of that all knowledge and all power is also what? Awareness. So that means all along. Every form, on one hand it is Ishvara, all knowledge and all power, and also at the same time what? Awareness. At every level of organization there is a different form. And each form, when you look into it, reduces to what? First Ishvara and then awareness. So that means the whole universe is Mithya. It has a dependent reality. It depends upon what? First level, it is dependent upon Ishvara, who is both the maker of the universe and what is the material from which he made all these different forms? From oneself, exactly. So Ishvara is abhinna nimitta upadana karana. What does it mean? It is both the maker and the material cause of the universe. Like Lutz was saying, that any creation requires what? The maker and the material. So therefore, Ishvara is the maker and the material of the universe. This is why every form, whether it is the atom or the molecule or the cell or the organ or the body, they are all dependent upon Ishvara for its existence. Satya Mithya relationship. But Ishvara itself as an entity depends upon what? Awareness. That is the truth of Ishvara. The status Ishvara, all knowledge and all awareness, it is a status. And that itself, the reality of Ishvara is awareness. Ishvara knows this reality is covered in you because of ignorance. And the whole teaching is from Ishvara, which tells you that you and me are one. The first level of bhakti, what will it do? It will make you see the fact that I am one of the manifestations of Ishvara. Ishvara is the whole design, it is all forms, and I am what? One of the forms, which is the manifestation of Ishvara, which will make you conclude I am part of the whole. Like wave is part of the ocean. If you go to the second level, then what? If the minute the wave recognizes the truth of me is water, and the truth of ocean, which is a much bigger entity than the wave, is also water. And when you resolve the equation at the level of water, is water that is wave is part of the water which is ocean? No, there is only one water. You are the water. The I am of the wave is water. The I am of Ishvara, the ocean, is also equally water. Then what is the difference? There is a difference in form. One is a small form, the other one is what? The total. If you see it from the standpoint of the form, me, the individual, you are what? Part of Ishvara, which is all forms. But if you see yourself from the content of the form, you come to awareness, without which this form cannot exist.
And Ishvara is limited or limitless?
So that means that Ishvara is that which is, it's certainly not limited. It's not limited in time, space and object, right? It's not limited. In fact, there is no such thing, there is only one thing. Awareness, right? And then the capacity of awareness to project the universe.
And that's the Maya.
That is Maya. Superb. That is the meaning of the word Maya. Very good. So that means that there is this awareness. This awareness has the capacity to manifest the universe. And with reference to that capacity to manifest the universe, what does it need? Knowledge and power to manifest the universe. So with reference to this capacity, it is given a name called Ishvara. And then that same Ishvara, the all knowledge and all power, becomes what? The whole universe. All different objects, time, space, everything. So that's why, what is then the definition of Maya? Please understand, Maya, according to the traditional Vedanta, does not mean illusion. It does not mean magic. It does not mean that it is false. It does not mean it is imagination. It means that this awareness has the capacity to what? Manifest the whole universe without undergoing any change in principle. This is why when you look into the creation, you will find, when you begin to look at the truth of objects, you will find both Ishvara and awareness.
And no gaps.
And no gaps. So that means that the sequence is, that's why it is a vision of oneness. The sequence is forms, then there is intelligence which is behind the forms, and the truth of that intelligence which is awareness. And awareness is the ultimate. Like in both the entities, wave and the ocean, water is the ultimate.
So, when I look at the equation awareness plus Maya equals Ishvara, it seems like there is a duality used to explain the oneness.
Exactly, but it is not plus. This is why Swamiji used to say, it is not real plus.
Okay, but that's a big difference.
If it was plus, it will become 2.
Yes,
So that means that the example that is given in the Upanishad is, you, with your awareness, create what? This dream world. When you create the dream world, you have the knowledge and power to create the whole dream world. So that means with reference to the dream world, you are what? The creator. Because you have the knowledge and power to create what? The mountains, the rivers, the characters, the interaction between characters, everything. Right? But the power that you have, can it exist without the presence of you being there, the awareness being there? No. And while the awareness, and where is the presence of awareness in the dream? In the entire dream world, there is the presence of awareness.
So we just miss it.
You can't miss it. But it is present everywhere, but your perception is only for forms, so you miss it.
Yeah.
But is the awareness actually becoming a mountain? Is it actually becoming a river? No. The awareness, without undergoing any change, as though becomes what? Mountains, rivers, characters. Then within the characters, discussions happen. Within the discussions, fights happen. The whole play is going on within that. So awareness is the truth, but the same awareness from the standpoint of its capacity to create the whole universe, it becomes what? The creator of the dream.
Is there ever a time when there's awareness only and Maya goes to sleep?
So that means okay, that will come. So that means Maya doesn't really go to sleep. The Maya's capacity to manifest becomes unmanifest. So that is why we call it the cycle.
Manifest and unmanifest.
Exactly. So therefore, what we need to understand is there is no duality. One reality, awareness, seen from the standpoint of its capacity to create the whole universe, is called what? Ishvara. The same awareness from the standpoint of one little entity, which is part of that whole manifestation, is called what? Jiva. What is the difference between Ishvara and Jiva Upadhi? That one seems to be very small, the other one seems to be what? Very big.
Very big or limitless.
Or limitless, exactly. Because it is the truth
not
of
very
time
big,
and
it's
space.
limitless.
It is not, exactly. So that means it is not limited by time, space and object. It's true. It's the truth of time, space and object. But you can't have two limitless. So therefore, there is a relationship between Ishvara and Atma. The Ishvara, the entity, ocean, cannot exist without water.
Small form inside big limitless form.
No,
No,
no. Awareness is free from form
I mean Ishvara
and Jiva.
and Jiva.
Yeah,
Jiva
sure.
inside.
Sure. That's correct. That's correct. Yes, exactly. So that means Ishvara itself is not one given form. Like in the ocean.
If it's limited, it's not a form.
Exactly. So, so therefore, what they say is there are two upadhis. What are the two upadhis? The appearances. What are the two appearances of awareness? One is that of the individual, and the other is what? Jagat Karanam Brahma, the cause of the whole universe. What is the difference? The difference is not only in the so-called, one is little form, the other one is what? From which all the forms come. The forms of the past, the forms of the present, and forms of the future. And even if there are no forms, which is the unmanifest, that power potentially is there. Just like when the dream is over, the potential power to dream again is still there. It hasn't yet manifested as another dream, but the power is still there. then it creates another dream, then another dream, then another dream. The power to manifest, unmanifest, manifest, unmanifest is always there.
You say Jiva, small power of creation, and Ishvara, unlimited power of creation. With awareness
And awareness is the reality of truth. The one more difference is not only the form, that Ishvara is not ignorant about the reality. Whereas Jiva is what? Covered by ignorance. So that means in this Maya, the capacity to project, there are two types of powers. One is what? The power to project, which is called Vikshepa Shakti. And the other power is to what?
Right.
Veil. Veil so that Jiva doesn't know that all that is here is one. That is what we call Avarana Shakti. Avarana Shakti means capacity to veil. So that means that which is a Shakti from the standpoint of Maya, with reference to a Jiva, the individual, it becomes what? Avidya, ignorance. So that's why Ishvara is not ignorant of this reality. It is Jiva who is ignorant of this reality.
No, yeah, he is limited.
Yeah. So therefore, please understand, it's the Jiva who needs to know, to remove this ignorance. Where will you go for removing the ignorance? The only source is all knowledge. There is no other source. Ishvara. You need Ishvara in Vedanta. Without Ishvara, there is no Vedanta.
He is cause.
What is the relationship between Maya and Ishvara?
Okay, very good. So that means Maya is a Shakti, right? Shakti means the capacity. So that means this capacity, so there are two different ways in which this relationship is explained. I will explain. One way that it is explained is that this awareness has this capacity to manifest the universe, right? Like you, while you are here, you have the capacity to manifest your dream world, but right now, hopefully, you are not able to do that. But the capacity is there, right? So now, when are you called the creator of the dream? When there is already a dream, right? You can't be called the creator of the dream before the dream comes into being. So that means the term Ishvara, what does it mean? The cause of the universe. You can only talk about the cause of the universe when there is universe. Without universe, you can't talk about it being the cause of the universe. But the capacity is still there, not yet manifesting as what? The dream. So that capacity which is not yet produced, the manifest universe is called Maya. But the minute this capacity manifests as the universe, it is called what? Ishvara, the cause of the universe.
So it's Maya in action.
Maya in action. Maya, when it actually projects the universe, it becomes the cause of the universe. So that means both Maya and Ishvara refer to one thing, which is what? All knowledge and all power. Both, in one case, the all knowledge and all power is unmanifest, which is Maya. The same all knowledge and power becomes manifest as universe. It becomes what? Ishvara, the cause of the universe. And what is the relationship between Maya? So that means one thing, all knowledge and all power, when the universe is unmanifest, is Maya. And when the universe is manifest, is called Ishvara. And what is the relationship between this all knowledge and all power with awareness? Both depend upon awareness. So therefore, the second way it is explained by some is Ishvara is both the manifest and unmanifest. So both are fine. Sometimes you say because both refer to only one entity, which is what all knowledge and all power. So you can change the terminology, but you have to be clear about that Ishvara doesn't cease to exist when the world becomes unmanifest. Because the cause of the universe has to precede the universe, right? Ishvara cannot come with time and space, it has to precede time and space. The all knowledge and all power before the manifestation has to be in what? Unmanifest form. And that is referred to as Maya.
Now I have a question. When you were talking about this, I was just wondering why is it even split as Ishvara? And like for me, what I understood of Ishvara is that it is awareness and Atma. So like,
It's very important to understand that the difference between Ishvara and what awareness.
And Atma is awareness, right? When you use the
Atma
word.
is awareness. Because see, what will happen is, if you take it at the same level, then can never be an equation. If you think that all knowledge and all power is the intrinsic attribute of awareness, you will never be all knowledge and all power. Do you understand the big error you will make if you take all knowledge and all power as an intrinsic attribute of awareness? There will never be a possibility of equation.
So can you say that Ishvara is, we can make an object of it and awareness not?
Sorry, can you say it
Is
again?
it possible to objectify Ishvara?
No, because the truth of Ishvara, see, as I told you, with your eyes, you only objectify objects. And Ishvara is that intelligence which makes every object what it is. That's why, as I told you, you can't figure out what is the nature of Ishvara. For that also you need pramana. Because Ishvara is not available to you as an object, but it is always there as that which makes every object what it is. But with your own senses, you can't figure it out. And even if you figure it out a little bit, that, I had gone to Australia recently, and I met one very, very clever neurosurgeon who was in my class. And, he initially, before he listened to the whole Vedanta, he always thought that Advaita means no Ishvara, right? That's the kind of, he thinks, everything is just awareness, and Advaita includes no Ishvara. That is a kind of a common feeling some people have. So when he took me out somewhere, in fact he took me to this aquarium, and then he told me, he kept saying, but there is such an intelligence, there is such an intelligence. So that means he was trying to say, but how can Advaita be possible? It's just what? Form and then awareness. There is this intelligence which makes every form what it is. That you can't figure out on your own. You have to be shown. Because with your five senses, the capacity that is only, even if you infer, like he did, that there must be some intelligence, you still don't know what it is. And you don't know where it is. And you still don't know what's your relationship with it. So that means you need pramana.
Say that in a way Ishvara is constantly looking at himself, at Ishvara, because subject and object is
What the tradition says, it makes a certain difference between Ishvara and awareness. One of the ways it talks about the difference between Ishvara and awareness is, one is Pravaha Nityatvam. Pravaha Nityatvam is what? That the intelligence is constantly undergoing change, from manifest to unmanifest at a global level. And even while the universe is manifest, how many changes are there? As I told you, creation, destruction, as though sustenance, that is constantly undergoing change. This is what we call Pravaha Nityatvam. While the universe is there, the minute you collapse one possibility, which is what? Dropping this, what? Pot, the universe has to change. How does it have to change? It has to move the pot from P1 to what? P2. And everyone is simultaneously acting. So the world has to constantly change, not only to account for my action, but if you put one thing in your mouth, like how she is doing, the universe also changes. From the moving of the position from the pen from P1 to P2. So the universe is constantly undergoing change. There is not 1 second that things are in a constant flux. So when we talk about Ishvara, then the whole universe becomes unmanifest. That is also another change from manifest to unmanifest. Then again it becomes manifest. And within that manifestation, constant change. So Ishvara is what we call Pravaha Nityatvam. Whereas awareness is what? Kutastha Nityatvam. It doesn't undergo any change. And it is free from all attributes, including all knowledge and all power. Because if the awareness had an intrinsic attribute of all knowledge and all power, you will never be Ishvara. There is no possibility of equation. So therefore, this is what we call the equation Tattvamasi. The other way in which it is explained is, one is what we call Vivarta Upadana Karanam, and the other one is what? Parinami Upadana Karanam. Ishvara is Parinami Upadana Karanam, and awareness is Vivarta Upadana Karanam. What is the difference? Similar. So that means the Upadana Karanam is what? The material cause. Material cause of the universe in Sanskrit is called what? Upadana Karanam. One material cause of the universe what? Constantly undergoes a change. The intelligence as the material cause of the universe is constantly undergoing the change because the forms are changing. But behind those changing forms, there is one thing which is not changing. That is Vivarta Upadana Karanam, awareness. Unchanging material cause. So this is why, please look at this. In the same, you take any object in the universe, you will find a form. That form has a name called Jiva. If you begin to look into the nature of the form, like this body, you will find what? The intelligence which makes what? Every cell what it is. And makes every cell coordinate with other cell so that the body works. That is the intelligence, Ishvara. Then the intelligence also makes your mind work and makes all the thoughts possible with different functions. So the intelligence is at work which makes every part of the body function. And while that intelligence is doing its job, producing one thought and getting rid of that thought and producing another thought, there is one thing which is remaining constant, and that is what? Awareness. In whose presence the whole show is taking place. So any object you take in the universe, you will find the form, you will find Ishvara, and you will find what? Awareness. Look at anything.
And is that knowledge is change or
Which knowledge is changing?
knowledge with any object?
Yes, knowledge is changing. So in the sense, knowledge is changing in the sense that, for as I told you, right, that Ishvara is everything. It is not like one entity. So Ishvara is also what is going on here. So the minute I collapse, see, for example, let's not take this. Let me tell you that just this internet, how many years ago it came? 20 years ago. Was Ishvara there before the internet came or not? Yes. Then when internet came, Ishvara was there or not? Yes. So that means we keep collapsing newer possibilities, we keep coming up with different discoveries. Ishvara, the intelligence, is always there, which makes us collapse those possibilities and create new objects. That is within Ishvara. Every time we collapse one possibility, we create new things. So this is why somebody, what's the time? It's way past 1. Okay, I'll stop with this. But somebody just asked me one day, and you know, I have all kinds of characters coming to my retreats. So one day, one person, he tells me that, you know, now there is this whole new thing of artificial intelligence. And the things that you thought is not possible, the creation of intelligence, now we human beings can create intelligence. And we are very good at it. We'll create better intelligence than the intelligence with which we are born. So therefore, Ishvara, what is the conclusion? Ishvara is redundant. How would you answer this person?
Who made you?
The human brain, which uses the intelligence, is also what? Ishvara's creation. And what can be made, which is not made earlier, is also within the possibilities of Ishvara. So that means Ishvara, please don't think of Ishvara as a static entity. If you think of Ishvara as a static entity, Ishvara will become outdated. Because new objects will come and this little static Ishvara will become what? Outdated. Ishvara, this is why it is very important, it's constantly moving and reorganizing to create what? The internet age. We don't know what kind of new age it is going to be, robotic age, whatever it is.
That implies that there will be a time maybe in the future where the human beings could be extinct.
Who knows?
No, who knows? But it doesn't
I mean,
matter, but Ishvara will
so
continue to change all the time. I mean,
So things
So
will
what?
change. And exactly.
yeah.
See, even if human beings cease to exist on this earth, there is always your moksha is still intact because you can evolve somewhere.
So we need artificial Vedanta or Vedanta for artificial intelligence.
So therefore, the Ishvara is constantly, this is why this Parinami Upadana Karana is very important. Otherwise, I told him, it is like telling me, 100 years ago, there was this man in the hut who said, oh, now I have to really struggle and go to the river and get the water. I have to light the lamp to have the light. And then I have to really take so many steps in order to climb. There will come a day when I will just open something and then there will be water falling. There will be the day that I'll just switch something and there will be light. There will be a day where I'll just enter something and it will take me up. Then there is no Ishvara. It is like telling that. So that means we move from that age to this age, all the way, what? We create causes, collapse possibilities. And all that happens within Ishvara. It's a constant flux, constant flux. That's why Ishvara never becomes outdated. You can create a very different universe. Who knows what kind of world it will be 100 years from now? We don't know. That's why you have all these science fictions postulating what the world will be like. And we get all very excited about it. But one thing is, everything happens within Ishvara. The changes take place within Ishvara. The minute you collapse the cause, then what? There will be an effect, and that happens within Ishvara. So Ishvara is what we call Pravaha Nityatvam and Parinami Upadana. Pravaha Nityatvam is what? It's constantly under a flux. Parinami Upadana Karana means what? It's the material cause which undergoes a change. And Vastu, which is awareness, is what? Kutastha Nityatvam. It doesn't undergo change. And it is Vivarta Upadana Karana. That material cause, which is while things are changing, itself is changeless. So, this, he says, completes the knowledge of Vedanta. Not only you need to know the entity called Ishvara, you also need to know what? Your relationship with that Ishvara. We will see more in the next class. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.